Hi everyone, it's Dot, and I've got a big old pile of mushrooms right in front of me. So that means one thing. I'm making my very own low-carb, creamy mushroom soup. No nasty chemicals like you find in those cans at the grocery store. This one will be tasty, very healthy, and yes, low carb. All right, let's quickly go through what's actually in this soup. For my fats, I'm using heavy cream and butter. For flavoring, I got sea salt, pepper, I've got some chopped up onion. I'm using a full head of roasted garlic. If you prefer, and you don't have roasted garlic, you can just use 1 clove of regular garlic, just mince it completely, and actually you'll lower your carb count. I'm just doing this to add a little bit more flavor to it. And of course, a lemon. I'm gonna be adding some bulk to this recipe as far as making it sort of stretch by using some bone broth. And I completely am out of my own bone broth, so I'm using this from Kettle and Fire. I discovered this not too long ago. It's tad expensive, but I like it because there's no preservatives and no additives to it. So once you open it, you've got 5 days to use it essentially because it will go bad. So just keep that in mind. But it's a nice bone broth that I like to use. And obviously before I get to it, I have my mushrooms. I've already sliced them up. I have a pound of these. You don't have to slice them like I did. You can just put them in a food processor to chop them up if you prefer. That's up to you. So with that, let's go ahead and get going. All right, the first thing I want to do is I want to get my garlic out of here. So since it's roasted, I can just squeeze it, and always squeeze it into its own little bowl because of the papers on here. I'm already saying one is going to fall with the papers on it. But basically, you're just squeezing it out. And the recipe to make your own roasted garlic is going to be linked to below. So you can go ahead and look there to see how you can make your own. But all I'm going to do now is just smash my garlic. I'm just going to create a paste with it. So I have my garlic all smashed to pieces. I'm going to put it aside. I'm going to slice up my lemon. And all I'm going to do is just cut it in half. I'm only going to use half a lemon for this recipe. So I'll use that half. But that's going to come during the cooking time. Let's go ahead and get cooking. All right, I have my butter in here, and this recipe does use almost a full stick of butter. So keep that in mind. Don't fear butter. Butter is healthy and tasty for you. What I'm doing is I'm going to make basically a brown butter sauce, essentially, or come close to it. And I'm going to add, but I'm going to season it with the garlic and onion. The butter is going to start foaming, as you see now. It's starting to bubble. I want that. You'll see brown flakes as the butter starts foaming and really cooking. And when you start seeing the brown flakes, that's when I'm going to turn off the heat. I'm going to start adding in my other seasoning, but my butter is basically browned, which is what I want. You can see the butter, it's starting to turn brown. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the heat off. I'm going to add my salt and pepper, and then I'm going to go ahead and add my lemon at this point too. Again, this is all about flavoring. It smells wonderful, as only butter can. I'm going to go ahead and add in my garlic, my onion too. If you look at it, yeah, there's some chunks of garlic that isn't crushed all the way, and that's perfectly fine because I'm going to be blending this once I saute everything with the mushrooms. What I'm going to do now, I'm turning the heat back on. When I do brown butter, I do it fairly quickly, and I turn the heat off at that temperature where the butter is starting to turn. It's just sort of my habit and what I like to do. You don't have to do that, but you want the heat to go down low at that point. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and add in all of the mushrooms. Now I'm just going to coat them in the butter and cook them down. My mushrooms have released their juice, which is perfect. I sampled a little bit. They taste amazing, and the butter flavor is perfect. It has a slight nutty flavor, which is what I wanted, and that's why I did the brown butter. I'm adding in 2 cups of broth. I'm using a chicken broth. You can use beef if you prefer, or even a vegetable, whatever you'd like. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to raise this back up to a simmer, and then I'm just going to let it go for about 3 to 5 minutes. All right, it's been about 3-4 minutes. And when I'm talking about a simmer, I'm talking about this. You don't want a major boil going on. I just stirred it up a little bit. I'm turning it off heat, and I have my stick blender out. And if you don't have one, go right ahead and use a blender or a food processor if you prefer. So all I'm going to do now is just start pureeing the soup. I want to break apart the mushrooms. And it is up to you how smooth you want it, how chunky you want it, but you're basically just going around the soup. All right, I've got the mushrooms all pureed in here, and I'm going to go ahead and add a 1/2 cup of heavy cream. and just mix that all in. It's done, and I can't wait to dig in. I love the smell. It has a very slight nutty aroma to it. I went ahead and I sauteed a few slices of mushroom just to add on top to be a little fancy. But let's go ahead and dig in. This is awesome. I've always loved mushroom soup, but I never really liked it out of a can. I've always liked it whenever I went over to a friend's house and they would just impress me by making their own. And I love the taste of it. Slight nuttiness to it thanks to the butter. It has a nice mouthfeel because of the cream and butter working together. I left it very, very small little pieces of mushroom in it. A slight hint of garlic too. It doesn't overpower it. It's very mellow garlic. Because I roasted the garlic. I love this and my mouth is watering right now. But anyway, I hope you give this recipe a try. And if you enjoy these videos, go ahead, hit like, share with your friends, and subscribe. And until next time, I'll see ya.